Alright, so we're getting ready to weld. Just wanted to talk a little bit about what I use to do this with. Nothing really advanced. I got a block that I've drilled out to bolt the T6 in. It's just a big chunk of aluminum. I can do stainless on here or mild steel, but I like to have it braced whenever I'm welding something just to avoid distortion. I got a little chunk of copper that is a couple pieces of copper angle welded together just to give it some mass, and I'll show you what that's for in a minute. Still spring pony clamp, number 8, but you know, I honestly think you could probably get away with, you know, anywhere 6 to 8 for just running beads on the outside of the tube to the flange. But you know, it's just what I'm used to. It's what I do. So, and then the other thing I have is this monster nozzle with the diffuser in it, and I'm going to use that to get my tungsten way down there between the two tubes in the center of that flange when I get ready to weld. Just a bunch of I think mine are thoriated, which are supposed to be like the horrible radiation ones, but I bought them a long time ago. 3/32 tungstens, and I got a flex head number 9 or number 20, I'm sorry, torch, and the HTP welder, some acetone. I'm going to be using 045 filler for the majority of the work. I'm going to use 035 to run one bead on the tube on the inside, and that's just to build up some bead. And then I'm going to use 1/16 because it can handle more heat to reach down when I go to do the inside. So I'm using 035, 045, and 1/16 all of ER70S something or another. So that's what we're going to be using. Okay, well, my grass cutter guys have decided to show up, so hopefully it doesn't get too loud and you guys can still hear me. So I've wiped everything down with acetone to include my welding surfaces and inside, outsides, and that's just I think good practice. Of course, when I did, I wore latex gloves so I couldn't get any harmful acetone, poisoning, whatever. So just going to tighten this down, drop this in. You see my bolts, I have flattened off one corner, and then I just aim that in, and what that does is just makes it so when I'm running my beads, it just gives me a little more room to get the tungsten to fill around the corners. And tighten that down. And it doesn't really matter what kind of bolts you use, although I would suggest you don't use coated ones because you don't want it to start getting hot and burn that stuff off. These are just stainless steel, I think 15/16 with the heads on them are 1/2 inch. So, and of course I'm cheating using the 13mm because all the stuff I do is mostly in millimeters. You know, if I was doing stainless steel, I'd pretty much be doing the entire same operation, except I'd just be back purging this. So the only really difference is you know, throw in your hoses and run some back purge when you go to weld, and that's about it. Obviously, use the right filler. So Copper's really good. So I have this little 1 foot by 1 foot piece of copper. It's not a 1/4 inch, it's 1/8 of an inch thick. And this is one of those deals where I was watching Jody's videos over at Welding Tips and Tricks. And just to, you know, shout out to Jody's because I've learned pretty much everything from him, and he's been a great guy. He spends a lot of time doing this. I got my TIG finger and I use it all the time. So he said that copper avoids hard starts, hard strikes on your weldments, And I do a lot of stainless steel, and I do aluminum occasionally, and that's true. When I weld in this little piece. So it's expensive, but it keeps me from getting those arc strikes. And when you're trying to make a nice breather box or nitrous fuel cell or whatever, you don't want a bunch of marks all over the aluminum, because that's not what people want or expect. They want it to be nice and clean. So anyway, here we got this fixtured up, and I'm just going to drop this in just like we talked about. I like this raised up a little bit because I don't want it falling all the way through and hitting up against the flange, and it's just, one more thing I got to mess with when I clean up the back side of this. So what I do is I have a couple little pieces of 090 wall aluminum that's just cut out from when I work with aluminum, and I just drop that piece down in there. And that just spaces that off, so when I drop that in, it gives me that perfect fitting. That edge is right up on that edge, and that's exactly what I want. So it got nice fitment. It takes a little bit of that steep angle out of there and spaces the tube off the bottom. So that's pretty much good to go. So that's easy. Making that run is going to be pretty much painless. But it's that inside part that sucks. So here's what I do: is I take a bit of copper. Like I said, this is just I think it looks like 1/16. I just cut it off, doubled it up, welded it together, so I got a little bit of a heat sink. And what I do is I just stick that on here. Again, a trick Jody taught me on welding trips and tricks is use copper and back up your welds with it. So that's what I do, and I just use this pony clamp flipped around backwards, which isn't the easiest thing to work with. I'm sure there's a better tool for this, but hey, you know what? It works. And I just had that copper backed right up on there, and it's going to work as a heat sink to pull heat out of there as I build a high crown bead. And it's also going to give me something to weld too, so I can back my bead right up on top of that, and it's going to form it exactly how I need it. So when I take it off and set it on top of the middle, it's going to have a nice little high crown of weldment material that's going to be ready to be just blended in nice and smoothly, washed in to the center of the flange. Okay, getting ready to make my first pass on this tubing. I'm just going to, like I said, build a high crown bead right at the base of this. So I'll have plenty of material there when I go to wash that in on the inside. My camera angle's not favorable, and my water cooler is really loud, so I'm just going to go over that now. I'm just going to use 035 filler, and I'm just going to shove it in there, and I'm probably going to use 70 amps. I'm going to use pulse at like 50 pulses per second, just to kind of control the heat, and I want it to go into the root, but I don't want to kill it. I want that to be a nice high crown bead. When I wash it in the center, that's when I'm going to really hit it with a lot of heat and make sure I'm getting into the root of the joint. But for now, I'm just trying to stack a high crown on there. So that's what's going to happen, and that's what you're going to see. Okay, and that's all I want is just high crown bead on there, and I'm just going to set that aside and let it kind of cool down when I work while I go to work on the flange. So you can see I got that little chunk of aluminum in there, got my flat side on the front, and I'm just going to stick this in here. So ready to go. And I'm just going to kind of come in the front, and my first speed's just going to be, I'm going to be moving pretty quick and just trying to get a small thin bead in there. And it'll. Okay, and why that was all well intended, I realized I was feeding wire right in front of that, so you couldn't see any of it. It didn't matter if the lens worked or not. But that's what I'm looking at for my first bead. I just want it kind of light bead, focusing most of my heat into the flange, because obviously it's so much thicker. And I'm just going to kind of angle down and let the heat wash the filler up onto the tube. Okay, so I just took it over the sander and I just sanded that spot flat, and I took all the carbonized stuff off there and hit it with a wire brush real well, and it's ready to go. So I'm just going to drop that on there. I got my aluminum spacer on the inside again, just 090 wall aluminum, and that's what I want. Sometimes the bead's a little too tall, not a big deal. Just go over there and take a little bit off with the sander. And okay, so in this case I did go a little too high. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and take a little bit more off. Okay, I'm back, and I just went over there and worked just a little bit more off and test fitted it, and hey, you know what, it's fitting in there just how I want it to. It's great. This sucker's warming up. Like I said, I hit it with 105 amps, so I'm going to be using my TIG finger now to save my fingers because it is warm. Another trick I learned watching weld tips is back it. So the more argon I can get trapped in there, the cleaner the weld's going to be, the easier it's going to be for me, and these are all good things. So I've been some filler. I think that's 035 stainless steel filler, and just kind of make these little spring clamps to hold my aluminum on. Aluminium. If you're watching from the UK or Australia. And just snap that on. I just want to make sure it's down nice and tight on the bottom, and you know what that's going to do? That's going to trap a ton of argon in there, and make my life a little easier when I go to reach in there to get that center washed in and down into the joint. So I make this little setup. It's just comfortable for me. Put one hand here, and I'm going to work the torch. One hand here, I'm going to work the filler. And it's right through there, but I gotta kick it at this angle because that's the only angle that I can work with. So that's all you're gonna see. And like I said before, when I do this, I'm gonna use thick. You can run the whole thing on 1/16. No problem. For me, I just prefer the thinner stuff. It's my own little signature. Everybody has their own preferences and how they do that. But this is gonna withstand the heat because I'm gonna be using a lot of heat down here, washing this around, and it just makes it a little easier. If I tried to reach down there with 035, it wouldn't happen. So this is one area I'm gonna use 1/16 in. And the other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch out to my monster nozzle. Monster. And I'm going to put my tungsten out there a ridiculous amount. And I just kind of take a feel. I want to make it be able to make it just past half. So when I flip around the other side, I'll have the same effect. Now, what I'm going to have to do to make up for that is I'm going to have to add a bunch of pre-flow. So I'm going to adjust my pre-flow up from 0.2 seconds to a full second. And I'm also going to add a little bit of post-flow on there to help it stay shielded while it cools down, because I'm going to be camping out a little bit while I'm in there, and that'll be a good thing. So, oh, and I have to turn the the argon up, because the Monster nozzle likes to have a little bit more flow. So pre-flow, I'm going to crank it up to 1 second, add some post-flow, probably be like 13 seconds of post-flow, and I'm going to crank it up to probably 30 CFM on the argon flow. It's a bit like playing Operation, but I've gone ahead and got that past the halfway point there. Like I said, I worked it just back and forth using that aluminum and the pre-flow and the post-flow to give it lots of choking gas. And now I'm just going to flip it around, and we're just going to do the exact opposite. I don't know if you can see down there or not, but that's what we're working with right now. Okay, so that's the hard part done. The center section between the risers, the runners, is all welded up, and just got to run that final bead around the outside. So we'll do that right now. I'm gonna switch everything back, get my pre-flow right, turn down my gas flow, save me a few bucks on the gas, and switch out to the regular number 8 gas lens again. Okay, back at it. Just going to run this bead around, and then we'll be just letting it cool. Alright, and that's it. Alright, I totally dread editing this video because I got way too much film time and not enough good shots, and I realize all of that. But so here's the finished product, and you know, it's good. So I actually lied to you guys. I actually run this on 100 amps. I started at 100 amps to run my first bead on the inside just because I wanted it kind of thin, where I was running the inside of that runner, and I knew I was going to wash back over top of it, and I just forgot to turn it back up to 105, and you know what, I think I might like 100 amps a little better than I like 105, but it's got plenty of heat, it's got plenty of pigmentation. You can see the heat affected areas on there, and what I'm going to do is I just let this cool on the aluminum block. I usually submerge the aluminum block about quarter halfway with water, not cold water, just water, and just let the heat dissipate, and usually that turns out a pretty flat flange. I'm still going to run the flange over the belt sander just to make sure the bottom's true, and I'll show you that after it's done. Alright, so I set it in some cold water like halfway, like I said, for like, I don't know, 10 minutes, not very long at all, but it's completely cooled off, and it's actually, the aluminum's actually cool to the touch. So let's go ahead and break it free and see what we got. Alright, so here's our collector, and let's see, here's the inside. I'm gonna put this down and grab the camera so I can actually look through the viewfinder so I can have a better idea of what it is you're seeing. Okay, so here's the collector, and see, get in there, take a look at the beads, just, you know, nothing wonderful, but is it going to focus? It's not going to focus. So there's in between the two runners and out. And that's about it. Hold on, I think UPS. Alright, so you can see the heat affected area there, and till we got, you know, pretty good heat in the joints. And here's the back side. So like I said, the inside just slides in and it's spaced off the bottom with those aluminum spacers. You can see again we got good, wrong way, got pretty good heat penetration. You can see by the discoloration on the back of the flange. And then, you know, it doesn't want to cooperate with me. But we got nice, you know, nice lineup on the inside of the divider on either side. And I'm just going to take a wire brush and brush all the flake off of that. And if you want to, you could also wash in a little material if you want to in there, and then just die grind it till it's, you know, perfect. But this will work, and it's pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and run it on the belt sander just to true this flange off, so next time you see it, the heat discoloration will be gone. I just wanted to show you that, and I also wanted to point out the lineup. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the last touches on this, which is just to hit it with the belt sander and wire brush the insides, and then I'll probably run a quick descent around the edge just to take the sharp corners off it, and it'll be good to go. Alright, so that's it right there, and went ahead and surfaced the back of the flange just to make sure it's nice and true, and we got really nice transition there, I feel. And I doubt that this is all showing up very well on the video camera, but that's how you do it right there. So thanks for watching. I hope this was an instructional video. Remember, that was the board warner T6 flange kit right here, and they're available from Monkey Fab Garage on my website, and I'll link this video hopefully on my website, so when you're looking for the kits you can just click on it and watch, see how it's done. It's like I said, right now, you know, who knows, the price of inflation kicks in. This video is old, but as of right now, the mild stills are $40 a set, and the stainless stills are $60, which is an exceptional value, I feel. And I also sell the collector already done, so you can click there, and if you don't feel like messing with it, I'll go ahead and do it for you. And still, what I feel is a pretty exceptional value. I want to say it's like $85 for the mild stills and $120 for the stainless. So check that out. This right here is done. It's going to my guy Alan Rice out there at LSS Mustangs. It'll be in the mail tomorrow, and I appreciate y'all checking my video out and tuning in, and I appreciate your support. of Monkey Fab Garage. Thanks.